providing healthcare. So there are all these different issues, and I could name 100 of them, probably, which Dennis really holds the ground on his own, that we all recognise as being what we want. The democratic base of this country really wants that change. That is why we saw the turnover of 2006 that we saw in Congress, when we saw the whole move where states went from Republican to Democrat in order to get out of Iraq. Unfortunately, we were sailed down the river and that's not happened. And there's a lot of corruption in government in Washington, which I'm not going to talk about tonight, but which is stopping that from happening, the spin that's coming out of the party. But Dennis is the one that stands there. Now, when I was in New Hampshire, for example, which is a very disappointing state for us with the election, just a day or two before the election there was a 100 Club dinner, which is where 3,000 Democrats come together, many of them Democratic leaders, come together and they hear the presidential candidates speak and they have reverie for the party and all of those things that happen. And Dennis gave his speech. He went up there and just gave a from the heart directly speech. And he had standing ovation after standing ovation after standing ovation all the way through. At the end, a full standing ovation with whoops, and everybody was really excited and everybody was revelled up and everything. And he got some wonderful comments from people afterwards. We got so many people coming round us, as you would expect. We don't whisk ourselves away. We like to talk to people. And these people were coming up to us and saying, "Dennis, you're the one. Thank you so much for running. Thank you for being there. You make sure you run right way till the end.
Right.
You make sure you do it because we want an end to the war in Iraq right now. We want healthcare. We want everything you're talking about. We want our leaders to be held accountable. We stand with you on the issue of impeachment. All of these different things. Dennis, please stay in. You are the person who is keeping the Democratic Party close to its roots. You're the only one who's doing it." And so they went on. And then obviously the wife really looks at them while they're saying these nice things to my husband. And I see they're wearing Hillary buttons and Obama buttons. And I say, well, you know, maybe you'd like to exchange this button.
Right.
Seeing as, you know, he's your guy and you understand the importance of it. The real contradiction that I find, and this campaign to me is not only a campaign for our civil liberties and our democracy and real leadership in the country and in the world, it is also an anthropology lesson for me. And I can't understand the disconnect between how people can visibly see thousands and thousands of people feeling the same way, experiencing the same moment, being touched by it, having their hearts touched by it, understanding it's the truth, understanding that this is someone of integrity that hasn't been created by the media but is somebody who is there that we recognise because of the person that he is. And yet that disconnect between that understanding of him being that person and then where they place their vote is something which is a challenge to all of us, I think. And it's something that it's not only what Dennis and I need to work on, it's what we all need to work on. Because that disconnect between us being able to moan about the government we have in Washington and yet know that we're electing the wrong people. I don't understand. I don't understand that. So if there's anyone who is a psychology teacher, an anthropology teacher or anything, please do enlighten me, because I really want to see how we can pierce through. People understand now that they were led down the river with respect to Iraq, that attacking Iran would be completely wrong, that all of these different things are propagandized within our media, and yet they haven't yet woken up to the idea that the propaganda that Dennis is not electable isn't a reality. It's called propaganda. And the reason why you don't see him on the TV is because they're actively blocking him. When he wasn't on that Nevada debate, when NBC wouldn't put him on, it wasn't because his polling figures were really low. It's because right from the beginning of the campaign, none of the major networks have covered. To be honest, Fox have been the best channel for us. Throughout the New Hampshire thing, they had Dennis on live twice a day. None of the other networks would even come to our events. So it's really, really interesting to see. And when you listen to the people at Fox, they say, "Dennis, we really disagree with what you have to say. We think you're absolutely wrong, but we really admire your integrity. Because you, just as we believe in what we're saying, you firmly believe in what you're saying. You're not doing it because of polls, you're doing it because of who you are." So I find that integrity actually quite interesting. But we need that integrity in the electorate here. We need to really see how people can actually put their vote for what it is they want and get it. So we still have, what, 11 months or so to go within this election process. Very few people have voted. And yet, you know, in Nevada, as I started to say, that debate, we went to court so that Dennis could get put back in that debate. Because he had the criteria, he fulfilled their criteria of polling at X number of percent or whatever it was that they required, which was actually higher than Richardson when Richardson was still running, and that was when they decided that Dennis would be in. And then because then they sent him an invitation and then realised, oh my God, there's going to be 3 candidates with Dennis. And obviously then changed their criteria, their fabricated criteria, and said, you're out. Well, we won the first court case. We had a district court judge who said there will be no debate if Dennis isn't in the debate. So Dennis had to be put in. So then NBC went to Court of Appeals, the Nevada Supreme Court. And 1 hour prior to the debate, they overturned that ruling. And Dennis was excluded from the debate. And the argument was First Amendment right to the corporation. So that was...
But we don't.
But we the people don't. And it was that, the FCC covers, it should have gone through the FCC, only they also argued within that argument that they weren't covered by the jurisdiction of the FCC because they're cable and not normal broadcast. So, everything, none of it sums up, none of it weighs up. So we're really at a point where you say, well, if Dennis really was a weak candidate with a really weak message, that he was completely unviable, why not just have him on the stage and just let him get on there, But he's not weak, and his message does resonate, which is why they're going to such lengths to exclude him. And this is what we have to realise. We've got to turn people's opinions and so they understand exactly what's going on. Because we could have a massive movement if only people got to hear what he had to say.
Absolutely.
So Dennis and I are obviously articulating everything that we possibly can throughout the day and throughout the year, and we need now you to really articulate that message to all of the people that you can. And we need you to raise the funds as well. Because, to raise $50 million doesn't take that much. It doesn't take that many people to do, really. 1 million people give $50 each. That's not a lot when we've got a country of 300 million people. That's not very much. Or if you want to do what $2,300 is the maximum that you can give. How many people is that? 20-something thousand people giving the maximum. That's not a lot of people to have a really, really expensive campaign. And when that happens, the message gets out there. So again, we need to show people, well, it's the power of community involvement, us all pulling together. If we all add a little bit, it makes up a lot. And so yes, I think that I understand where you're coming from, but I also see it from the other side, that there's potential for movement.